Everybody, welcome to Storm Talk. Way Through News meteorologist Brian Good here. We have a lot to cover, so let me get right to the eclipse fact for the day. And this was interesting, I think. The media, a lot of the media, of course, will be down there. Now, near us, there will be a lot of different media outlets, but some of the names that I'm sure you're familiar with would be the Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, NASA is going to be there, and we heard that they're actually sending a representative, one of their scientists from the Vatican Observatory to Hopkinsville as well. I thought that was pretty cool. Don't forget, Kentucky State Day, our Way Through News Day at the Kentucky State Fair on the 19th of August. We'll have those glasses out there. You'll need to see them. You cannot look at the sun directly. Sunglasses do not count. You have to have certified eclipse glasses or you will damage your eyes. All right, let's talk about the setup weather-wise today. We will have some sun out there today, but it's going to be that hazy stuff again. We had some showers around this morning. They have faded out. Now, the thing is, there's still somewhat of a boundary kind of snaked out across the area. It's very faint. We'll be watching that throughout the day. It needs a little more heating to attract it, basically, and get it going again for the afternoon period, but that potential is there. Overall, though, as you look at the wider view, I mean, there's just not a lot happening in our neck of the woods, especially aloft. So these thunderstorms are kind of working on just the humidity alone to feed off of. So that's what we're now officially outlooked from the Storm Prediction Center for severe weather for this afternoon. We weren't last night either, but we had a handful of severe thunderstorm warnings. It's mainly because they issue these outlooks for organized severe weather that can last several hours. That's what these outlooks are usually for. But you can't sometimes draw out a little area like we had last night for an outlook. That doesn't always happen to be that case unless you're really, really confident in it happening. But then tomorrow, the outlook is marginal risk north and west of Louisville for tomorrow. We'll talk about what that means. And then as we head into Friday, the actual front moves in, marginal risk, basically along east to 65. Now, the sounding for this afternoon, it's not overly impressive. Here are your wind barbs. This is the ground level looking straight up. Very weak winds. These numbers are sad. I mean, this is just not a lot of wind. So these thunderstorms do not have a tailpipe. If you've heard me mention that before, if they have a tailpipe to them, they get some winds and exhaust to them, they can go a few counties for a while. If they do not, then they become their own machine themselves. They can still produce damaging winds, but it's all with thermodynamics that it takes place. And that can happen for today because the instability is up there. We're seeing capes over 1400 and the lifted index about -7. And the downdraft cape, it's not overly high, but it's up there 5 to 700 this afternoon. And what does that mean? Well, the thunderstorms then can act on the heating of the day, the humidity to power up to produce these downburst winds that are real quick. Burst of wind, and the thunderstorm just collapses on the radar and just fades out. Like a couple of scan updates to the thunderstorm cell, and it's almost gone. But that burst of wind acts like a little mini cold front. So then it can pop up another thunderstorm right next to it. And that process, as I described in the blog itself and typing it out, is like bumper cars. It's kind of random. The initiating point looks to be, now this particular model run here from the Storm Prediction Center only goes to 2 o'clock this afternoon. The downdraft cape is showing up here to increase at 2 o'clock right out here in the heart of central Kentucky. So I think this is where they will initialize. Then at that point, it's just a matter of how they play bumper cars with each other, basically to see if they produce outflows, burst of wind that produce new development closer to the Ohio River, or does it go more east? It's hard to say how that will behave for the afternoon period. That's why there's a 60% chance I have been for this afternoon. It's not a washout scenario. It just means I see the potential for a lot of movement going on the radar, so make sure everybody's aware of that. Let's look at the radars on the futurecast side of things. Here is the HERD model. For the rest of the morning, relatively quiet. We begin to heat things up toward the midday period, lunch. Then they begin to pop. And notice where they're popping at. The HERD model is putting them exactly where that downdraft cape was showing up. So I think the HERD's got a good placement on the initiating cells. And then if you watch carefully, you'll see the actual motion of those downburst winds heading toward the Ohio River, and that promotes new development then right along the river. The thunderstorms then blossom in a totally separate area. So it's a common thing we see every summer, but hopefully this explains the process a little more, and then they'll eventually just fade out once the sun goes down for this evening. So just keep that Way Through News weather app handy. Let's look at the RPM model. Very similar. It shows how we heat up into the mid-80s through the lunch period, and then they begin to pop as we enter the afternoon. It also picks up in that downdraft Cape zone, central Kentucky, close to Bullitt County, where they will begin to pop, and then they kind of work their way around the Ohio River. So really both models have a decent handle on how the behavior, I should say, of these thunderstorm cells will be for the afternoon, early evening period. I just want to stress it's not going to be a washout deal, but I want to make sure you're safe too, and be aware if you hear that thunder, check the app, see what's going on, and get inside. All right, then everything should fade out for tonight. Now, as we head into tomorrow, very similar setup, really. Heating of the day kicks in, and then we get thunderstorms popping on the radar. The difference is, if you remember, there was a marginal risk out north and west of Louisville. The thing is with that, though, I think it's more of an issue of it being late at night, because the wind fields during the day tomorrow, as you can see, are mainly across Iowa into Illinois. But as the overnight goes on, that works its way into Indiana, but there's no heating of the day, so instability is weak. So the thunderstorms that do fire there in Illinois and Iowa will likely fade out as they approach us. But then here comes the next problem. You can see on Futurecast here how as the front moves in, here comes that fading line of showers just in time for rush hour. Question is here, how much do they fade out? Because we're going to get into the heating of the day again, and that could ignite the line to form in that spot there where the front is itself, near the lunch hour period. And where that firing up, the powering up is a little questionable, but it looks close to Louisville. And then we'll get some gusty winds and cooler weather as we head into the evening. Again, the wind fields on Friday, strong enough that we could get a few warnings, can't rule it out. Then the dry air rushes in. Now, skies in the upper layers of the atmosphere show a lot of dry air work its way in. So a clearing takes place in the higher levels of the atmosphere. However, the lower layers, there's still some moisture lingering. So that determines how cool we'll get Friday night, along with the idea of how strong the winds will be. But the models are spitting out 56 here in the city. We may be close to that, maybe 59 in the city or 60. But lower 50s are possible, depending on if we clear out that lower layer and calm the winds down. But Saturday looks beautiful. Dry air, beautiful sky, and then that moisture in Missouri is waiting for us, and it will come back on Sunday afternoon. Stay tuned for updates on that forecast.